just looking at the indicators, Brian, it's everyone sort of seems to think it's hunky-dory, but what you're looking at is what I described before as a slowly leaking tyre. It's that case that the taxpayer around the world and every other bugger who didn't have cash had to actually have money invented in his name and give it to the banks who had already stuffed things up, or all of those people who had and had run it into the ground. And we reinflated their bubble and kept our own little slice of paradise ticking over rather nicely on the back of that. But every good thing has to stop, and we're going to be asked to pay the bill very shortly. And that means the stock market itself is likely to take a bit of a tumble.
So the bubble, and that's what it is about to be deflated for a second or third time.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as rough in terms of, you know, the absolute fright. I think what's really going to happen, and you know, I'm just speculating here, but I suspect what will happen is that what you'll find is that returns from industrial production, etc., will not, and also from consumption, etc., are not going to give the profits which are required to return the interest required on the loans from the public. And that itself will say, well, hang on, why the hell do we reinflate and reinvest in something which isn't going to give us a return? It's a bit of a fool's paradise, really. It doesn't really make sense except in terms of, say, a Ponzi scheme where you just keep throwing in money and hope an occasional person can withdraw and maintain the illusion, but eventually the whole bloody thing goes down to Googler when there's a whole pile of margin calls and everyone wants their money out. And you discover that it's just gone. There isn't enough there in the first place.
But all this is on the back of peak oil.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's
and really wasn't the first financial crisis caused by oil peaking, and we're down the downward slope?
I'm not so sure, Brian. I mean, I would suspect it is, but I think it's probably more subtle than that, because what you're looking at is that you come up against a perfect storm where you've got things like you've gone as far with the ecosystem as you can without wrecking it further. You've only got 10% of the major fish left in the oceans. The ability to catch any more and keep that industry going is pretty stuffed. You can't expand agriculture a hell of a lot further. You can only do it based on the back of oil. Oil's running out. So you're running into this ability not to work with, say, growth style economics, because there is nothing to grow it with. You can grow it with pieces of paper and conceptual matters, but the hard fact of growing production, as in growing more wheat or making more cars because you got some oil, etc., well, end game, fellas, nothing left. It's, you know, reached peak and it's going down. And I think that the financial crash pretty much coincided with that. It might have been caused by that, it might not, but I'd say they're pretty inextricably linked.
Now the other thing is the baby boomers are all starting to cash in because they're wanting to have money for their retirement now.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine if you believe in capital deposits and reserves which are there and are backed up and actually exist, but you can imagine sort of several bank failures where people have had all of their money in, or in the case of very rich Americans who gave all their money to the likes of Bernie Madoff, when they ask for it, it ain't there. Well, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people shrieking when they find that what they actually put aside is going backwards, isn't there, or isn't worth bugger all by the time we either get hyperinflation or some other financial crash. So the issue is that we seem to have taken an excessive amount, put it aside and burnt it.
Yeah, but, and talking about burning it, wasn't that the real backing of a financial system? Oil.
Yeah, basically.
And we've actually burnt the financial backing.
Yeah, we have, in actual fact.
Because when you talk about it, I mean, without oil, there is no economy. Oil is the economy. And surely this is actually now just the consequences of the
Yeah,
peak oil.
I will put it in a slightly different perspective, because you can say oil's the economy, but energy is the economy.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And energy and calories for food, etc., of a base unit. We all need to eat and we all need to keep warm, so we need those calories. We've built a whole huge population based upon burning one hell of a lot of calories in the form of oil, and we put them into the pastures as fertiliser, we reap for food, we eat it, we breed. There's a hell of a lot of us sitting on the top of a pyramid which is about to have the bottom ripped out underneath it, and it's a bit scary really, because there's no other alternatives.
So we're a monolithic fuel-based culture, and we haven't found another paradigm. We're not doing a paradigm shift.
No.
And we're almost, well, we're in denial again, aren't we? We seem to sort of get close to identifying what the issue is.
Yeah,
and then we retreat into denial.
I used to actually blame the people at the top, or those who had, but I think it's a pretty simplistic viewpoint. I think we're all culpable, and we're culpable because we like what we have too much. We believe which is not true in preference to what is true, because it's actually, you know, it's sustainable for another day to actually live the lie. The issue is, when does the, you know, the proverbial man would decide, knock on the door and demand his ransom. You know, that's the day when we stop the denial, and then we all start pointing our fingers at people when we should point our fingers at ourselves for not actually realising it earlier, and for not being active enough as a community or as a political entity or even as individuals to actually stand up and say, hey guys, we've got to stop this. There's too many material and financial pressures on the individual, and you know, we're not talking any level of person, we're talking from top to bottom, but I suppose we could blame the rich and ourselves as being the rich parts of the world for our excessive consumption, but it seems to be almost psychotic behaviour as such.
Oh, well, there we go, guys. We've been talking to Nick Jolliffe, and he's been very articulate in his description of how everything's unfolding at this time. Okay, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, gents.